My name is Ian, and I am Ian the Reader. So in today's video, I'm going to be announcing the Stephen King book club that is going to be run over on the Bookish Drummer Discord. If you don't already know from many of my videos, I am really good friends with and big fans of Jake, the Bookish Drummer, and Stacy, the Chapter Conundrum, who have the Bookish Drummer Discord that I am active on. Very active on. I participate in read-alongs with them all the time and readathons and buddy reads and all that jazz. And Jake and I sometimes have similar tastes. At the very least, we both really love Stephen King and really love horror books. And so he reached out to me and asked if I would like to participate with him and create with him a schedule for a Stephen King read-along book club. And the cool thing is, Jake was gracious enough to plan this book club around the books that I still have left on my Stephen King TBR. Now, he's read all of Stephen King's books, quite a few of them multiple times, but I have yet to finish Stephen King's bibliography. I've read like 45 of his books, so I have quite a bit left to go still. And so we went back and forth talking about the books that I still had to read, that he was interested in rereading, if there were any books that I was interested in rereading, and we came up with a schedule for a bunch of books that we're going to be reading in this book club starting in October of this year. So yes, we have a schedule planned out for October through December of next year, and in this video I'm going to be talking about all of the books that we plan on reading as a part of that book club. Now, I'll probably be reading some additional Stephen King books as well. I know for a fact I'm going to be reading 3 Stephen King books in October and probably a couple in September. So when I announce those in my TBRs, if you'd like to read those with me, we'll probably create some chats over on the Bookish Drummer Discord. But these are the books that we have actually selected for the book club that we will have discussion channels for on the Bookish Drummer Discord. And I will leave a link down below to the Bookish Drummer Discord. You should totally participate. Stephen King is obviously an amazing author that I love so much. And I'm really excited to read a lot of these books. There are a couple that I'll be rereading, but most of these, like I said, are books that I have not yet read. And I'm very excited to read all of them. I do want to go ahead and, like I said, talk about the books that we are planning on reading. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we are not easing into this whatsoever. In October, the first month of the Stephen King book club on the Bookish Drummer Discord, we will be reading Under the Dome, which is big. It is quite the undertaking. It is over 1,000 pages, and there's a lot going on here. If you don't know anything about this, join the club. I think it's pretty simple, though. Essentially, we follow a community, a small town maybe, in which they are isolated due to a big invisible dome being placed over their city that, you know, separates them from the rest of the world and the shenanigans that ensue. I'm sure it will have the staples of Stephen King's small town horror, in which we find characters that we both root for and hate. Lots of corruption and evil and good striving for control. I'm sure this is going to be a blast. I've heard mostly good things about this. Some people don't like the ending I've heard, but I'm willing to give it a go, and this is one of the most popular Stephen King books that I have yet to read, so very excited about this. It's going to be a chunker. I will also be reading Desperation and the Regulators by Stephen King / Richard Bachman in October, so if you want to chat with me about those, feel free to join the Bookish Drummer Discord. We're going to be taking it pretty easy for November and December, especially after the huge book that we're reading in October. So the books for November and December are actually rereads for me. The first of those is The Shining. It's a great book for wintertime, not like a happy book by any means, but a good one. If you don't know what The Shining is about, I don't know really what to tell you. It follows a family of a man and his wife and their son as they become caretakers for a giant hotel that is in the isolated mountains of Colorado, and they are stuck there over the winter by themselves, and madness ensues, literally. So this book is amazing, iconic, one of Stephen King's most popular works for a reason. It's one of the earlier books that I read by King, and I listened to the audiobook. I would like to read this one physically this time, and take it a little bit more slowly, so I think I'm going to enjoy this quite a bit upon reread. I liked it the first time, but I think I'll like it more the second time. And following in the footsteps of The Shining, in December we will be reading Dr. Sleep, which is the long anticipated sequel to The Shining that came out like 30 years or 35 or 40 years after The Shining. I've already read Dr. Sleep as well, and I really enjoyed it. I think the first time I actually had more fun with Dr. Sleep than I did The Shining. Maybe that was just a matter of like my expectations coming into it, but I really do like Dr. Sleep quite a bit as well. So hopefully I will love this one as much the second time as I did the first time. That'll be our December pick. Starting off in January of 2025, we will be reading Different Seasons, which is a collection of 4 novellas, and this is one of Stephen King's most acclaimed works. You have really no misses in this as far as I've heard. I've read one story in this, and it's actually the least popular one, and I can't for the life of me remember what it's called, but it was quite jarring. But there are really popular stories in here, particularly The Body, which the movie Stand By Me was based upon, as well as Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, which of course Shawshank Redemption, the movie, is based on. So you've got those, and you've got The Apt Pupil, and the other one that I can never seem to remember, but the only one that I've read. So what are you gonna do? I plan on rereading the story that I read in college and reading the rest of these. I have very high hopes for this one. In February, we are going to be reading From a Buick 8. I really know very little about this one other than the fact that there's a car involved in it. I know it's one of Stephen King's less popular works, not necessarily due to the quality, but just the timing of it in his career when it was released. There just is not a whole lot of hype around this, but I find that sometimes some of my favorite Stephen King books are the ones that I enter into with less high expectations. So we'll see. I don't, like I said, know very much about From a Buick 8, but hopefully it's a banger. That is our February pick. In March, we will be reading Rose Madder. This is one I've been meaning to read for years. I don't know a whole lot about it other than it follows a woman who, at the very start of the story, I believe she escapes from a relationship that she was suffering domestic abuse in, and there's a painting that might be haunted or something, and I know that there are some ties to the Dark Tower in the story as well, so I'm particularly excited about it for that reason, and I've also just heard really good things about this one, so very excited to read Rose Madder in March. In April, we will be reading The Running Man, which is one of the books that is in the Bachman book collection. It's not the only one we'll be reading from this collection, so if you do plan on joining this readathon, I definitely recommend picking up the whole Bachman books. I believe that you can get a digital copy of this collection, or perhaps I'm completely wrong and you can only get them as novellas. But yeah, I highly recommend picking this up if you find a copy, though, because they're kind of rare physically, so definitely pick this up if you ever see it in your local used bookstores. But yes, we will be reading The Running Man in April, and I'm really excited about this one. I've only read one Bachman book, I think, Thinner, and I didn't like it very much. No, I've read 2. I've also read The Long Walk, and I like The Long Walk quite a bit. So hopefully I like The Running Man a lot. I know that there is a movie made out of it, and possibly, I think they're making a remake of the movie. So good time to read it because the new adaptation of it will be coming out in the next few years, and I've heard it's a good time. Dystopian, a man who has to run away from people who are trying to kill him, and if he makes it, like, he gets a bunch of money or something like that. I don't know the actual, like, goings on of it, but that's the gist, and I've heard it's a good time, so I like a good time. So for May, we have a little bit of a situation. So Stephen King typically releases 1 to 2 books a year, and oftentimes his new books come out in May. That's not always the case. Sometimes they come out in the quarter 3 of the year. That was the case for like Holly and Billy Summers, but we also did get quite a few books in the May, like particularly his newest release, You Like It Darker, that came out in May. And so we are guessing that Stephen King's newest book will come out in May at some point. Allegedly, it's going to be another Holly book, which neither Jake nor I are particularly excited about, but you gotta read it. So that's the plan for May. If the release date comes out and it's not May, we'll shift some things around. Whatever month it is going to come out in 2025, we'll move the book that was in that month to May, but the plan for now is that the new release by Stephen King will be read in May. We'll see. In June, we have another reread for me, one that I'm hopeful for, but not super hopeful for, and that is Duma Key. So this is one that is kind of like an underrated Stephen King favorite for a lot of people. I feel like people who read all of his books particularly love this one, though it is not like one of his most popular necessarily. I went into this book the first time with very, very high expectations because of that, and because I have some family members who say this is their absolute favorite Stephen King book. It was not that for me, and also there are some certain aspects to the story that didn't vibe with me the first time just because they felt kind of like out of left field. I'm not going to get into the details of that because it's kind of spoilery, but all you really need to know is that the main character is someone whose life is kind of falling apart. He is in an accident and suffers a disability because of that, and he kind of sets out to be secluded in this beach house where he starts painting, and weird things start happening with the paintings he creates, and it goes from there. I did really like certain things about the story the first time, but I'm hoping that a reread with my expectations adjusted will allow me to love this book a lot more. So very excited to be reading this in the month of June. In July, we're gonna have a short one because typically we do have readathons in April, July, and October for the Bookish Drummer Discord. I can't remember what our April pick was. The Running Man, that one's pretty short as well. But in July, we'll be reading The Colorado Kid. This is one of the hard case crimes. I think that's what they're called, kind of like pulp fiction books that Stephen King comes out with. He's also done Joyland and Later, and I actually really enjoyed both of those, so I'm hopeful that I'll like The Colorado Kid. I don't really know anything about this book though, and that's fine with me. I'll go in blind, and I'm happy about that. In August, we will be reading Full Dark, No Stars. So this is one of the only, I think it's the only actual like short story collection that we'll be reading. Different Seasons has 4 novellas, but this is a straight up short story collection, I think. Or, oh no, I'm wrong. It also is just like 5 novellas. 4 novellas? This is 4 novellas as well. So don't listen to me. We have another novella collection, not short stories. So I really don't know very much about these stories. I would need to see, do any of these look familiar to me? 1922 I know has a movie adaptation. Oh, I've actually read A Good Marriage. So that'll be a reread for me. And then the other 3, I don't know anything about. So hopefully this is a good time. I'm excited about it. In September, we're going to be reading Christine. This is one of the other really popular Stephen King books that I have not read. I say really popular. I wouldn't say it's like the upper echelons of Stephen King books as far as popularity goes, but it's kind of in the mid-range, like the higher mid-range around like maybe Firestarter. It was around that same era, I think. So I really don't know a lot about this either, except that it involves a car that's out to kill people, I believe. And I know there's been a movie adaptation of it, but I don't know if it's any good. So yes, Christine by Stephen King will be read in the month of August. That's a lie, September. The month of September. Don't listen to me. September. Then in October, we're going to be reading one that I am particularly excited about. Aside from Different Seasons, this is probably the one that I'm most excited about. Maybe Rose Madder more so, but I'm really excited about this one, and that is Revival. I know that Jake really loves this book, and a lot of the people that he's gotten to read this book really love it too. It's definitely considered like an underrated Stephen King book, so I really hope that I enjoy it. And this is one of his newer, I say newer, I think it probably came out in like 2012 or no, 2014. So it's not super old, it's only about a decade old, so hopefully I really enjoy this one. I don't really know a whole lot about it either, but I trust Jake when it comes to Stephen King. Then in November, we're back to the Bachman books with Roadwork. So I've heard kind of mixed things about this one. Some people absolutely love it and some people really don't vibe with it. So I'm gonna enter in with low-ish expectations and hopefully enjoy it. We have a lot of like road/car books in this readathon. We've got From a Buick 8, Christine, and Roadwork, which I don't know if Roadwork has anything to do with cars, but I assume so with a name like Roadwork. So we'll see. And to end the 2025 run of the Stephen King Book Club, I'm not sure if we will later make plans to continue into 2026. I guess it kind of depends on participation in the book club, but the final 2025 book we'll be reading is Dreamcatcher. So I've heard very mixed things about this one as well. There are a few people I know of that absolutely love it, but for the most part, people are generally mixed on it. I think it came out kind of around the time when Stephen King was trying to get his life together, but hadn't quite gotten there yet. Or maybe he had. It came out in 2001, so I think this was post his accident and his sober days had begun, but this is just kind of a mess, I've heard. I feel like I'm being really negative, though. I may end up loving this. I've heard, like I said, that some people really do like it. I think there are connections to dairy in this. I don't really know what, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully this is a banger. But that is all for this video. Let me know if you are interested in joining the book club for any of these books. You don't have to read all of them. You don't even have to read any of them if you don't want to, but I encourage you to because it's going to be a lot of fun. We love discussing books over on that Discord, particularly Stephen King. There are a lot of really big Stephen King fans on the Bookish Drummer Discord, and even if you just want to read one of these books, you should totally join the Discord because there are so many other things going on in there. We've got a Ray Bradbury book club going on. Jake and Stacy always do a Thrill, Chill, Kill read along on there where they read a mystery thriller horror book every single month, and there are tons of readathons, and it's just the best. You should totally join the Bookish Drummer Discord. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you do plan on joining us for any of these books, and if so, which ones you're most excited about. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.